All right. Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Vivisection for Bellator 179. Coming at you this weekend, Friday, May 15th or May 19th in London, England. I'm Zane Simon, joined by Eddie Mercado and Victor Rodriguez. And we've got three pretty decent, reasonable fights to talk about, and then some stuff.
That is the best way to say this. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very diplomatic. I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, the prelims, there are some records on here that, like, tease the eye a bit. You got some dude, Mike Shipman, on the prelims at 9-1. You got Jamie Powell at 6-1 versus Amir Albizi at 9-0. You got Alfie Davis at 7-1 versus Jay Dodds at 6-0. But nobody who, like, people who are winning fights, but, even like just looking at this Jay Dodds guy and his 6-0 record, his opponents have a combined record of, 1, 4, 5, and 8, 12, 17, 5-17, and that's including two guys who were 0-0 when he fought them. So there's just, even the guys with good records aren't people that anybody's excited about yet for the most part. So we're gonna skip the prelims. There are a few random names, but considering this whole thing's going to be on tape delay at the time it airs anyway, there's just basically going to be some random crap fights on SpikeTV.com at some point in the middle of Friday. I don't know when, but
maybe.
Maybe, yeah. It says 3 p.m. Eastern on Friday, so that...
Well, that's the main card. Starts at 3 p.m. in London.
Oh, okay. So
you know what I'm saying? Which is
gotcha.
So the prelims will actually be sooner than that, sooner than 3 p.m. London time.
So yeah, we don't know when these fights are going to be on and how you're going to. We know if they're going to be on, they'll be on SpikeTV.com, or Spike.com. All right. On that note, then we're just going to dive straight into the main card and a first bout. Unfortunately, first on a note. Michael Page versus
Derek Anderson.
Derek Anderson was canceled. That was going to be a big main card bout for this. So the first main card fight on this is Dan Edwards versus Alex Lahore. And Eddie, talk about this fight and, in like 3 sentences or less.
Okay. Alex Lahore, we saw him fight Freak Show in his last fight, overcame early adversity. He got dropped, recovered. He was in some pretty solid submission holds, escaped them, and then came back to get the finish in the second round. So he shows he's tough on top of being athletic, and I believe Bellator is setting him up with someone who he should beat, someone who's 14-14, a journeyman through and through. Alex Lahore by styling.
That was like 20 sentences. I'm really disappointed.
I used a lot of commas and semicolons.
Okay. Semicolons. There you go.
Punctuation matters.
What are your thoughts on this fight?
Alex Lahore, who, Eddie did point out, most audiences have seen him in his last performance against Colin Fletcher. It was actually a pretty okay fight. Started off a little ugly, but got better. Had a really crazy finish, worked out well, and now he's inexplicably paired up against a fighter that is maybe not someone who has the best record, but still has more of a kickboxing background, and maybe that's what they're hoping for. Maybe they're really looking to see a striking battle here, which would actually be pretty decent. Obviously, Lahore should be much, much higher in terms of being favored here than had it been someone else who had a better record or a better list of wins. But it is what it is.
A winning record would be cool.
Or a winning record for that matter, although, it is what it is, folks. Take what you can get. Alex Lahore should look pretty good. his opponent, Dan Charles, oh Jesus, Dan Edwards should be able to make a fight of it. But I mean, it should be fun, but not necessarily competitive.
Yeah. Charles has been finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Too many.
10, 11 of his 14 losses have been Dan Edwards getting finished. So,
My man, look at you.
What are odds for this?
Put your pants on, Vic. No odds on that fight, so I'm not going to give you any odds for it. That brings us to Kevin Ferguson versus DJ Griffin. And Baby Slice back in action after his disappointing debut loss in Bellator to Aaron Hamilton. Vic, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Well, here's the thing with this fight. Obviously, we've got Ferguson coming in. Bellator has high hopes, obviously, the big expectations, being the son of a guy who was pretty much guaranteed to bring action to his fights, even if he wasn't the best fighter. I don't know, man. Griffin is a fighter who's making his professional debut. From what little is available from his fights, he's not the most composed fighter. His style is not very his stand-up game is not as technical as it ought to be. He's very content to clinch with an opponent if he sees that he's getting into some sort of trouble. Ferguson should have a reach advantage. His hands seem to look a little better. I don't know really how to call this. I mean, like on paper, I kind of see Ferguson winning this, but I'm not necessarily sure that's a lock. I don't know what the odds are on this, but I'd definitely stay away from this one. I'm just going to go with Ferguson because of the fact that, he has access to better training partners. He's been around more, I guess, Jesus, how do I even put this? I don't know, man. He just seems like he's got his striking more put together and he can hit harder.
He's more familiar to you?
Yeah.
Well, that's also part of it, yeah, I guess, if you want to go in that direction. But what I've seen from Griffin doesn't really convince me that he's got, that he should run away with this in any way.
Well, there aren't any odds on it, so you don't have to worry about anybody betting on it. Eddie, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, as far as DJ Griffin goes, I've never seen him fight professionally, so I'm not even going to waste time talking about him. Kevin Ferguson doesn't even fight like his father. He's a lot lighter, and he's a guy who'll change levels and look for the takedown, and he sets it up with his hands, which is pretty awesome. In his debut, he even locked up an anaconda and rolled with it and almost had it, but he lost it, and then whoever he was fighting locked up an anaconda of his own and got it. So, tough luck there, but it was a pretty decent outing. So I'm kind of excited to see if he's, has any potential. Is he going to be something? Obviously, he's not going to be the knockout artist that his father was, but, maybe he's something. Maybe.
Who knows? It's 0-1 against 0-0, so it's really
exactly. There's not that. I think we're being more than generous here at this point with both fighters.
The fact that we are only talking about it because it's Baby Slice on a main card.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, that brings us to a heavyweight bout: Czech Congo, Augusta Sakai, and Eddie. What are your thoughts on this fight?
This is interesting. I like what Sakai's doing. I saw him at the weigh-ins, and he had a 2-pack. I was like, holy shit, he's getting in shape in the cage. Good for him, man. Definitely good for him.
He is one of the hallmark get in shape heavyweights who's fighting their way into fitness.
Yeah, I like it. He's deceptive. Like he comes out and he's got these knees in the clinch that you don't even expect him to be doing. And he's got these wild punches and he's got these leg kicks that are heavy and you have to deal with. But he's going up against an OG here. I mean, a true OG. And Sakai doesn't bring anything to the table that Congo has not seen already. So, I mean, he just has a much more variety in his tool shed. And Congo's way better at chaining everything together. So I expect, Sakai, he's like the type of guy to like automatically grant you respect. So the second the bell rings, he's going to be cautious and tentative and even backing up just to see what you have. And then when he gets a beat on what you're capable of, then he'll, determine how he wants to proceed from there. But automatically giving Congo respect is the exact opposite of what you want to do. You want to get in his face and try to come over the top and knock him out. And I feel like Congo's going to be the one to come out pressuring, backing up Sakai, getting an entry into a takedown, getting the clinch, putting him up against the cage, knee to the balls. There'll be a break in the action. Action resumes, and then the same thing. And I expect that for 2.5 rounds, and then midpoint of round 3, Sakai is going to land a big shot that's going to hurt Congo, and he's going to try to finish him, but he's not, and he's going to lose the decision. That's exactly
specific.
That's exactly how I see this fight panning out, and I think I'm pretty spot on with Congo's fights more often than not. So Congo by decision.
Vic, are you seeing the future with Eddie's level of clarity?
No, this is one of the things, and I don't know if I've said this before, both on air and off. It really is a pleasure doing these with Eddie because holy shit, I mean that's one of those moments I just had like, you know what? God damn, he's really good at this. I mean, you're absolutely right. I kind of see it the same way in the sense that like, okay, look, Congo has the advantage in terms of reach, in terms of experience. If he sees anything he doesn't like, if he gets cracked with a shot that he doesn't see coming or whatever, I mean, he's got a really good chin. If he gets wobbled at any point, he's probably just going to revert to his wrestling, which he's really made more of a staple in his Bellator run. And he's going to eventually take Sakai down and start working him from there. Roast his ribs with nice, short shots and just keep controlling and keep pushing a pace. He's not going to just stall. He's going to continue to use his advantage and his size to pin him down. I don't know, man. I want to see Sakai give him a good fight. I don't know if Sakai can actually win. I mean, I should rephrase that. Sakai can win. I think he does have the kind of power that might be able to give Congo fits, if not necessarily, even if it won't necessarily finish him. But I just don't see it happening, man. The way that Congo's been fighting, the way he's changed up his style as he's gotten older and as he's been fighting in Bellator, I don't know that Sakai really has that. So I'm going to go with Congo on this, and it's, again, going to be ugly.
All right, odds on this fight. Congo is the favorite, opening at -210 and dropping it to -270, which is pretty much where he's stayed since yesterday. And Sakai opening at +160 and rising up to +220. And he's now at about +217.
Pretty reasonable. Is there an over and under for this one?
There's an over 1.5 rounds is -250. Under 1.5 is +210.
It's not even worth it.
No.
I was gonna say take the over or goes the distance, anything like that.
No.
Oh.
All right. That brings us to our co-main event: Liam McGeary, Linton Vassell. Vic, what are your thoughts on this light heavyweight bout?
I'm kind of surprised this fight hasn't happened before, for starters.
I know, it really feels like it's happened before.
It really does, doesn't it? That's really strange, especially considering that they're higher-level light heavyweights. I mean, it's a very small group. You'd think that they would have probably had some sort of round robin by now. But, yeah, see, this fight could look really, really good if it turns into a grappling contest, but then just be super awkward if it's standing. Vassell can hit hard. He can put guys away or at least get them into some serious trouble standing. The problem is I don't know how he's going to negate that range. Even though McGeary is clunky and his striking is very awkward, it's very functional. It gets him where he wants to be, whether that's keeping the guy at the end of his jab or, able to, back the opponent up against the fence and then start working his clinch game and his takedowns from there. That's the thing, though. Vassell might be able to wade through and land a few shots. I just don't know that he'd be able to put him away. I can see him taking McGeary down, being smart enough to survive the submission attempts off his back and work his way to a decision. Something tells me that McGeary might have some ways of outsmarting him on the ground and then finishing that off from there. And that's, again, assuming that Vassell's able to break through and not not fall victim to the distance game or the counter game for that matter, because McGeary might be able to slip in some uppercuts or something, catch him coming in. I'm feeling really good about Vassell here. I probably shouldn't be. But damn, I'm probably gonna say Vassell by an ugly decision on this one.
All right, Eddie, you picking Linton?
No, I don't think I am, but I definitely see a path for him. If you look at McGeary's past, 5 fights, each of his opponents have taken him down. And I mean, Kelly Anderson, Phil Davis, no shame in being taken down by those guys. But Tito Ortiz and Brett McDermott, like those guys are putting you on your back, you have takedown issues, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, Vassell, he's gotten his at least previous 7 opponents to the ground. I say at least because I don't have footage on anything before that. But I mean, Emmanuel Newton, Francis Carmont, King Mo, he's putting these guys on the ground. He slammed King Mo. Nobody slams King Mo.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely capable of getting the fight to the ground. So, but he's hittable on the feet. Like, he's really hittable. And not only that, but his recoil speed is noticeably slower than the speed at which he throws his punches. Like, he'll throw the punch at one speed, but it comes back at a completely slower rate. And it's annoying as shit to watch, to be quite honest with you. But, I mean, it's a thing. So, will McGeary be able to exploit the uncouth striking of Vassell? And I think he will be able to enough to hurt him, maybe not put him away, but enough to hurt him and get ahead on the scorecards. He could easily knock him out in the first round, but we haven't seen that from McGeary with higher caliber opponents. So I'm going to have to go with McGeary by decision here. I think he'll do enough damage early to matter more than any kind of grappling that Vassell will be able to deploy. So I'm going to take, I think on the ground, they're not going to be able to sub each other. They're both pretty much aces on the ground. So I'm going to go McGeary by decision.
I'm sorry. Can we just, before anything else, can I just mention 2 things very briefly? Uncouth striking, I like that. That's actually pretty dope. That's kind of, but the Tito thing, is it really a shame that a high-level wrestler like Tito took him down, especially if he was able to submit him?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
This Tito Ortiz, like at the time, come on.
It's a 41-year-old Tito Ortiz. I think there's that. Like, if let me put it this way. I see what you're saying, Vic. But if Liam McGeary is supposed to be one of the top 10 light heavyweights in the world right now, then I think it's a problem. Like, if he's supposed to be one of the very best guys in the world, then, like if John Jones got taken down by Tito Ortiz, would you be like, nah, that's fine?
I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be like, oh my God. I mean, the guy's been wrestling forever. The McDermott thing, that definitely makes a case, and that perfectly illustrates your point, Eddie. So I'm not disputing that. The Tito thing, I'm kind of iffy about. I don't know, but it's insignificant. I'm just no. Yeah. All right.
At some point, I think it's worth like being like, you're not making a case for yourself as a very, like, you have a wrestling problem if even if it's somebody who was very, very good in their prime, if well past their prime, they're still getting one over on you, then that's a problem.
And some of that could be just McGeary's willingness and confidence off of his back. Because, he's catching these unorthodox submissions from awkward angles. I mean, he's good off of his back.
Yeah.
But you don't want to play guard.
I honestly think that could be a big reason why McGeary loses this fight. Is if the big thing will be, it could end up being, and very likely will, because McGeary is very willing to play guard, and Linton Vassell is going to absolutely be willing to try to put him on his back. Is going to be who gets tired quicker, because both guys, neither guy is like a cardio machine, Neither dude is known for being the super fresh fighter late in fights. McGeary,
which is why I'm glad this is a 3-round fight.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, they got decent cardio, but not enough to be like, yeah, that guy's still fresh in round 3 or reasonably close to it.
Yeah, McGeary had he won a 5-round fight over Emmanuel Newton, who is much smaller than him and less athletic, but that's like the only time Liam McGeary, other than losing to Phil Davis, he's only had one win in round, 2 wins in round 2, and every other fight has been a round 1 fight.
And I think it's we should also note that McGeary, that 5-round win over Newton, he spent that fight on his back.
Yeah.
He won that fight from his back.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, getting that kind of decision multiple times in a row, like, good luck with that.
Yeah. And Linton Vassell, on the same time, he's a dude who got choked out in round 5 against Emmanuel Newton because he got tired, because the pace of that fight exhausted him.
Yeah.
And he goes to decisions, and he's a good he dominates people enough to take decisions because he's big and he's strong and all that. But if this ends up being a real like grappling, scrambling battle on the ground, it's going to be interesting to see who fades first. My bet would be McGeary, but there's no guarantee there.
I think it's safe to say the fight will be hitting the mat.
Yeah.
But I just think McGeary damage early will be the difference.
Yeah. Odds on that fight, Liam McGeary is the favorite, opening at -260, jumping up and down a little bit, but now at -224. Linton Vassell opening at +180, dropped briefly down to +148, has climbed back and is now +181. So
I would stay away from this fight altogether, even the over and under, because McGeary can easily end it in the first, but it can easily go all 3 rounds.
Yeah, and after round 1, honestly, I have no real feel as to how it's going to go because, Vassell is really wooden on the feet, and if in round 2 he's not very fresh, McGeary's going to have a good striking advantage. If they just keep grappling over and over every round, I would probably pick Vassell to win that fight, but probably, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, there's also the clinch. Like, what if they spend a good amount of time in the clinch? Who knows what's going to happen there? McGeary has his knees, but I mean, there could be a whole lot of neutralization going on, and this could stink up the show. Hopefully not.
That brings us to our main event, Paul Daly, Rory MacDonald. Great action fight. Should be fun. Eddie, what's your thoughts on this?
It's the return of the Mac. I'm excited. I like that Bellator picked him up. Good for Rory. Good for Bellator. I gotta say, I have no legit reason to pick Paul Daly here. Like, I don't. I have absolutely none. He's been taken down by guys like Andre Santos and Dennis Olsen. Mm-hmm. If those guys are taking you down, what is MacDonald going to do to you? Douglas Lima, he hurt him and he took him down. I mean, sure, in his last fight, Daly absolutely had a spectacular knockout of Brennan Ward. It was a beautiful flying knee. That's cool. You knocked out Brennan Ward, but so did Tamden McCrory. You know what I mean? I'm not picking Tamden McCrory over Rory MacDonald. I'm definitely not picking Paul Daly. So unless there's like some X factors going on, like wear and tear or like damage and miles and something happened in the layoff or like some sort of weirdness going on, there's really no reason to pick Rory MacDonald. So I'm going to pick him, and I'm going to pick him by a 3rd round TKO.
All right. Vic, you as confident?
I'll tell you what's going to happen here. I got MacDonald winning this one by TKO, but I see it happening sooner than the 3rd. Probably late in the 1st, if not somewhere in the maybe like opening, maybe the first half of the 2nd round. The thing you got to remember here, Daly not only has a reach disadvantage, but he's far more limited. I mean, other than his kickboxing, which again, it's good. It's very good, and he's a very good fighter. He's a very good striker. When it comes to having a much more complete game, you have to give Rory MacDonald the advantage. But not only that, but Rory's jab is really good. He's got that perfected GSP, patented Faraz Zahabi, straight up lunging jab and keeping your opponent there until you feel that maybe you want to do something else. He could catch Daly coming in with an uppercut. He could, kind of like he did with Safadine. He could probably just start piecing him up and tearing his leg apart. And then eventually when he's unable to stand with that, then, take the fight elsewhere. I don't really see many avenues for Daly to thrive and succeed. I mean, could he put him away? Yeah, maybe. But look at who it is that McDonald's been losing to recently. Guys like Robbie Lawler who could overpower him. I don't see Daly overpowering McDonald in any way. I mean, I don't see him being necessarily that much faster or hitting hard enough to really put him away with maybe one shot. He's going to have to crack him a few times to make that happen. So, no, as much as I love watching Paul Daly fight, and I think this will be entertaining at the very least, I got to go with Rory McDonald finishing him. And I'm just going to go say maybe halfway through the second round.
Well, we got to give Paul Daly some credit for hitting hard, at the very least.
Oh, I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
After Robbie Lawler shattered Rory's nose, I mean, that's something that could be a reoccurring injury. And Paul Daly has a mean cross. I mean, absolutely mean. And he could easily slip it in there and, bust the nose early. And then,
he's got to find that nose first, though. He's got to get to it first. I mean, you're totally right. But at the same time, like, it seems to me this is one of those fights, like, Daly can win, but there's a lot. It hinges much more on what Rory McDonald does wrong as opposed to what Paul Daly does correctly.
It's a big puncher's chance, is what you'd be talking about, and it's a big puncher's chance against somebody who has only been knocked out once in the 5th round against Robbie Lawler in one of the most brutal, hard-fought, unholy wars out there. I mean,
Condit got him also, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's been knocked out twice, both times in complete wars.
But that Condit fight was a comeback.
Yeah.
Like 3rd round.
Yeah, he was
energized
Carlos Condit. I mean, even Steve Thompson busted his face again, but he didn't knock him out. Like, Rory was able to ride that out. So
I really hated Rory's game plan in that fight, too, with the Eminari rolls and all that.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard to watch.
I've seen enough Eminari rolls today. But I mean, look, a point on that Condit fight against McDonald, like, you also have to take into account that how young Rory was. I think he just moved to Toronto. And not only that, the fact that, a 3-round fight. I mean,
it was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
7 years ago, okay, but it's a very strong 7 years in formative period of time in someone's life.
The point is that you have to give Paul, you have Paul Daly has a puncher's chance against somebody who does not get beat by puncher's chance. Like, that's never how Rory McDonald gets beat. He gets beat by somebody slowly picking him apart or absolutely going to war with him. And Paul Daly could go to war with him, but probably can't win that war.
Yeah. And I think Rory has this unique way of pressuring people without going berserk. It's the most calm pressure I've ever seen. And I think that's going to force Daly to make mistakes.
Very likely. Daly tends to, I mean, he's very much a, live by the sword, die by the sword kind of fighter where he's going to go out and he's going to come after you. And if you give him openings, he's going to hit you really hard because he's a well-studied fighter. He's not Brennan Ward, live by the sword, die by the sword.
Exactly. And he knows what he wants to do out there.
Yeah. He knows what he wants to do, but he's still gonna he has to open himself up to create offense. And when he does that, Rory should be able to pick him off. So I think Rory, the only thing I would say is that I don't think I would be all that confident in Rory McDonald finishing. He did knock out Tarek Safadine, but that was his first knockout since Che Mills in 2012. And only, one of 4 finishes for him since making it to the UFC back in 2010.
That is also true. But a little counterpoint, Daly really hasn't fought anybody world-class in a long time. Douglas Lima, maybe, I guess, if you want to count him, sure. But outside of that?
I do. Yeah. I do.
Outside of that, though, you got to go back a ways.
Either way, it would, Paul Daly is also definitely the worst fighter which is weird to say because Paul Daly is still a very good fighter, but he's the worst fighter. This is, extra weird statement. Paul Daly is the worst fighter that Rory McDonald has fought since BJ Penn?
I'll give him Che Mills. Well, no, that BJ. 2012 BJ? Yeah. Okay.
2012 BJ. It's either that or
Yeah.
Jake Ellenberger right after when we were starting to get into totally shut down Jake Ellenberger.
Wow, that's crazy.
So otherwise, Robbie Lawler, Damian Maia, Tyron Woodley, Tarek Safadine, Robbie Lawler again, and Stephen Thompson. Like,
what a fucking resume. Holy shit.
Yeah. The murderer's row.
And he's only 27.
Yeah. I don't know that we're going to be seeing Roy McDonald fighting in 3 years.
Definitely not.
All
Probably
right.
not.
So we gotta enjoy this fight while it lasts, especially if Roy McDonald can go out and put a beating on Paul Daly, because he's put himself through some serious wars already. Odds on this fight: Rory McDonald opening at minus 305, bounced a little, but now minus 330. And Paul Daly opening at plus 225, dropped briefly down to plus 169, now plus 256.
I don't like that. I don't like those odds.
Yeah, you think Rory's still worth a look at those odds, or do you think that they're too short on Daly? They're too long on Daly?
I don't think they're worth betting on. I think they're kind of spot on. But
yeah.
Just because I think they should be wider, but I understand why they are where they are, considering Daly's at home, coming off a huge knockout win.
Yeah.
So
but under 2.5 rounds is plus 140. So if you think there's a chance of either Daly or Rory going out and really like wiping the floor,
which there's a good chance of.
I don't even know if there's a good chance of that, honestly. Like I say, Rory's such a careful fighter. He rarely finishes quick. And
yeah, but Daly's, he's down to go out on the shield.
He is. So,
like I said, just stay away from this. There's two. Yeah. Let's see Rory. Let's see him debut. Yeah, stay away from the whole card.
All right.
You might want to watch it, maybe.
Yeah. I watch that fight.
The main card will be worth watching as long as you can avoid spoilers. But as far as betting on it,
all right. Any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Wu-Tang is for the children.
Okay. On that note, you can find me on Twitter at these names.
Wu-Tang forever.
You can find Eddie on Twitter at the Eddie Mercado. You can find Vic on Twitter at Vic M. Rodriguez. We will be back later today. Vic and I and Dio for a Invicta Vivisection, and otherwise we'll be back next week to break down UFC Stockholm. So give this video a thumbs up over on YouTube, like it, share it, all that good stuff. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com, DOTCOM, to get all the rest of the latest Bloody Elbow shows, videos, interviews, analysis, all that good stuff. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you again soon.